I'm delighted to be joined today by Kosser Abdul Aziz, who is the author of Tales of Mini Maryam, a new book published by IHRC Press, which is available now, $11.99 from shop.ihrc.org. Kosser is going to have a chat with me about what inspired her to write this quite amazing set of tales, which are both educational, funny, very charming, and I mean this sincerely, not only appealing to that age group that it's targeted at, so any child that you want to read it to from about that age, shall we say about 3 upward?
Yes.
I think for some of us much older children, like myself, who absolutely are delighted to read it and read through it and read it to children and nieces and nephews and everybody else we can find an excuse to read it to. Of course, so can I start by, first of all, actually thanking you for bringing this project to IHRC Press. It's been an absolute joy to bring it to publication. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this?
Okay, so Assalamu alaikum everyone. For a very long time, so let's say back in 1990s, I had started writing a collection of my memoirs. So anything that was going on in my life. So for example, the first time I wore hijab, the day I got married, the day my mum was diagnosed with the motor neuron disease, the day I had my first baby, all of these things I started writing down. And then inevitably when Maryam, my daughter, when she came along and she was getting up to lots of mischief and, things that I wanted to remember, because I do have a brain of a fish, to be honest. I wanted to write it down. So I started writing down a collection of the things that she was getting up to. And sooner or later, it turned into quite a collection of books or stories. And I thought to myself that perhaps I could hopefully turn this into a book. And so it began from there. Initially, I had no intention of actually putting a book together. The idea was that I'd have this collection of memoirs, and sooner or later, my children, when they grow up, I'll read it back to them, or they may like to look back at their mum's life, what mum went through, because that's something that I missed out from my own mother. Because my own mother, she had quite a colourful, childhood and upbringing, and one thing I regret is not knowing too much about her. So with that in mind, I started writing my own collection, and as I said, with that, Maryam as well. But when I looked back and started rereading Maryam's stories that I'd written, I thought to myself that, hey, I think I might have something here. And then I thought, okay, let me try. And so I started approaching publishers. It started from there.
I think we have a few minutes and we can actually explore this issue of those memories and having memories of our parents. I think this is something that a lot of us who are born here, whose parents were maybe not born in the same country that they were, and this kind of lot of experience and memory and storytelling. But before we do that, I wanted to just get you to explain a little bit more about your own kind of professional background as well as your personal story, because it's a bit of an unusual journey from where to becoming a children's author.
Yeah, so after leaving sixth form, I then entered into the world of banking, and I was there for about 17 years. So I started off at Lloyd's and then went into investment banking, but alongside that, I was also doing lots of voluntary work. I was working for charities voluntarily, and I was doing voluntary work for the community. So my inspiration has always been my family and my children. And at the time, for example, she was a teenager and I was looking for things for her to do, and I couldn't find, for example, a youth centre, which I was happy with for her to go to. So I then started up on my own. So I approached the local community centre. I asked them if I could start running a youth centre for girls only from all cultures. She said absolutely fine. So alongside working with banking, I started running my own youth centre as well. And that's it. So banking was my job, but my passion was working for the community.
So we got to know each other actually through the homeschooling community, and I don't know if you want to maybe just explain a little bit more about some of the things that you're doing there, because it strikes that this type of the book that you've produced, although now, alhamdulillah, there is a lot of literature out there for Muslim youngsters, at least definitely in comparison to, say, 10 or even 15 years ago. Tales of Mini Maryam is one of those that is actually both fun and engaging, but something that parents can use to support homeschooling or education for Islamic values at home for their children.
Yes, sorry. The Tales of Mini Maryam are true to life stories. I mean, I'm sure that everyone will be able to relate to Maryam. They'll all have a Maryam, be it their child, their nephew, their niece, their cousin, their next door neighbor. You'd definitely be able to relate to a little Maryam in your household. So you mentioned homeschooling. Homeschooling didn't actually start until I'd actually left work. I left work to be with my children. So I had a brilliant career. I was good at where I was working, but I missed my children, and for that sake, I left work to be with the children. And then after that, then came homeschooling. I was perfectly happy with my children being at school because so a bit of background, I have 4 daughters. My 2 older daughters, they went to primary school, secondary school, college, etc. And I was perfectly happy. But with my 3rd child, something just changed, and a change of mindset. And I thought to myself, do you know what? Homeschooling is out there. It's available. The government allows it. Let's do it. And so I took, for example, Maryam out of school, and I took Iman out of high school. And my homeschooling journey began in 2014. So, and 6 years later, when I look back, it was the best thing I've ever done. I've been the happiest time I've ever had in my whole life. Alhamdulillah.
I think a lot of us share that experience and that feeling. It's hard work, but definitely something I think that I would recommend if people can do it or try it for a little while. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Tales of Mini Maryam, you said they're all true to life. So yes. I think we have 6 in this particular volume, and I hope we'll be able to publish more in the coming months and years. Do you want to tell us a little bit about these 6 stories, what they cover, and which one is your favourite, actually?
Okay, to begin with, my favourite story is Trust in Allah, which is the very first one. And the reason being for that is because it opens up and to Maryam herself, and it brings you in, it draws you into the world of Maryam. So the very first page is Maryam was thinking. And you're curious, well, what was she thinking? And then as soon as you open up, you find, I see, this was her thoughts, all of this, she wanted to go shopping on a shopping trip. And on that shopping trip, she wanted this and this and this. And, and then you kind of wonder, okay, so what is she thinking here? And so it's a good, it draws you into her world. That's the first thing why it's my favorite. But another reason why it's my favorite is because it reminds me, it has sentimental value. It reminds me of my mother. Reason being, when Maliha, my oldest child, when she was younger, and I took her to my parents' house, she fell over. And as soon as she fell over, I said, Bismillah. And my mom was there, and she turned to me and she said to me, why would you say Bismillah? You say Bismillah at the start of things, and she's just fallen. You should say Hasbi Allah. Now, I understand it's a cultural thing. Okay, it's a cultural thing. So Hasbi Allah, as in trust in her. She's fallen down. Okay, fine, no problem. She's fallen down. She'll get up again. So it stuck with me from there. And so as I brought her up, every time something would happen, I had started saying Hasbi Allah. And so my children picked it up from me. So each and every story that you find in Tales of Miniam, it's just that it's true to life in the sense that my child would do something, Maryam would do something, and then I would say either Bismillah or Alhamdulillah, and she would pick it up from me. And so I'm creating a story, a scenario that happens in everyone's lives, and then what the parent says, and then what the child learns from that parent. So that's what all the stories are genuinely about, creating those scenarios.
So each story is in effect explaining or teaching through Maryam's world and Maryam's worldview a particular phrase or dua of everyday Muslim life, really, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
it's one of those counterintuitive things, because as you said, you think, well, the children, and children do pick it up from you, but sometimes you don't actually teach these things, and those things are learned. But other times kids also learn when we say, for example, inshallah, and a lot of times Muslim kids tend to think inshallah just kind of means it's never going to happen, as opposed, as opposed to what it really should mean, because of the way we as parents use it, and then things don't transpire. And I think that's really kind of value about this book, and I think it makes it different to other children's books, is that it actually does very subtly tell both the child and actually the reader as well the context of certain phrases and du'as that we actually should be applying, which often we do because of culture and habit, and or even when we originally meant to, but we actually forget and we don't connect with the meaning. And I think it's absolutely gorgeous and charming the way that even as an adult, you're reintroduced to the meanings in a more profound way to a lot of these phrases through the item of I don't know, how old is Maryam? This kind of slightly not exactly placed age of a child, could be 3, could be 6, could be older even. Explaining to the adults really what they. A little conversation now, if you will, about the illustrations by Taha Abdullah, which we've already had an awful lot of feedback about how captivating they are, and actually how beautifully they have been put together. I just wondered if you could talk us through the process that you had with him to come to this characterization of Maryam, but even just the look and the feel of the book itself.
Okay, so that was very interesting in itself. So I met with Taha, brother Taha, I met with him, and we had a storytelling session. So I actually read out the stories to him, and I brought him into my world, because that was the only way I thought I could kind of get him to try and imagine what I was thinking, which is, honestly, it's very, very difficult to do that. So I kind of read out the story, how, I made him feel it. So and he laughed with me at the stories, and he said, oh yeah, my niece would do that, my niece would do this as well, and yeah, I can imagine that. So I brought him into my world, I told him the story, and he went off and he did some sketches, and he sent back the draft, and I was like, no, that's not what I'm looking for. So it took some time, like at least 3 or 4 attempts to actually kind of get the Maryam that I was after, and alhamdulillah, we finally reached this eureka moment. I was like, yes, that's it, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And then it started from there. So for each and every story, I helped him imagine the scenes, and I told him, no, this is what I like on the floor. This is what she had in her pushchair. This is what she was playing on outside in the park. So I had to explain to him, and alhamdulillah, he did a brilliant job at the end of it.
Are you able to show us on the screen a couple of your favourite illustrations?
Sorry, what was that?
Could you maybe show us on the screen, hold the book, and some of your favourite illustrations?
This has to be my favourite. That is the favourite. I mean, this cat is... Okay, so Maryam... this is true, as I said, this is true to life. My little Maryam would do this. She would go into my kitchen and she would put in, everything that she could find from the kitchen drawers, everywhere, anything. Okay, maybe not so the toaster, but she would do it. And then she would have this little accident, exactly like that. That is what would happen. But what you don't know in the story is that I would tell her to clear up afterwards. So she would actually kind of, together, we would put things back. So, yeah. And then, who else? Her in the rain. Isn't that lovely? How she did enjoy herself in the rain. And what else do I have? They're all mine. I mean, I can't really choose, but I mean, look, look, Daddy on Umrah, mashallah. And this one is just so sweet, that me and Maryam together, alhamdulillah. And this one actually makes all the children laugh. This is when Maryam she'd gone around, so every time it was prayer time, Maryam would go around and she'd like put scarf upon scarf upon scarf on her head, because she wanted to pray with everyone, and that's what she'd do, and she'd end up looking like a mummy. But yeah. But I've been getting feedback from lots of people who have bought the book and who've been reading through and have said that they've really enjoyed it. And the favourite picture that they've said is this one. They love the feel-good factor that this one gives them, the children, at the end of it when the family are all happy at the end after having their meal. So, yeah.
Yes, when you were placing the run of the stories, it was a bit counterintuitive to finish the book on a story that is about Bismillah, but I think it actually does frame the whole set really well, because it's the start of the reader's new adventures, if you like, with what they've learned along the way. And you know,
Definitely.
I was thinking which is my favourite story, and I'll be honest, I don't think I can say any particular one, because they all bring so much joy to me as a slightly older child in terms of what I actually feel I got out of reading the book. And certainly quite a lot of young people in my extended family are getting a copy of this for Eid. And I highly recommend it to anybody else who's looking for, whether it's an Eid present, a birthday present, a book for any time of the year, really, to just enjoy with your children and learn something along the way, both for reader, parent, child, whoever else is engaged with it. Are there any other thoughts or points you want to bring up about the book and the journey of the book from yourself, Kosser?
Feedback I've been getting from parents and children, like my little Fatima, she's read the book and she knows the stories by heart now. So I say, Fatima, read me a story, and she goes, and she'll start and she'll say, Maryam was thinking. So it's hilarious when she reads the story out. My little grandson Zachariah, he's picked up some du'as, and so he kind of now says Bismillah. You know, his mum's been reading the story, and I'm so happy. And even Fatima, going back to my daughter, when she leaves the house, she actually says, Mummy, what do we say before we leave the house? And in honesty, I used to say that a lot, and I do to my children, even as they're now teenagers, and you know, Iman is now 19. I still remind Iman, what do we say before we leave the house? I always say it. But now Fatima, since she started, Fatima, mind you, is 8, and she enjoys reading the book. Okay, and so since she started reading the book, every time we leave the house now, she says, Mummy, what do we say before we leave the house? So she's reminding, and my hope is that children will be reminded to read the du'as, and they will kind of start reminding their parents as well. And inshallah, yeah, that is what I'm hoping. That was the intention, inshallah.
Inshallah. So thank you so much for talking with me today. And again, I would recommend this book wholeheartedly to any parent, auntie, mum, dad, sister, whoever, to get a copy and share this with a young person, a young child in your life. And actually also for us older children to learn something along the way as well. It's published by IHRC Press. You can buy it from various platforms, but please do, look in at the IHRC bookshop online, which is shop.ihrc.org if you can, because some of the profits from that will go to charitable causes. But if you can't, it's available on Amazon and other platforms as well. There is a discount on an IHRC shop for Eid al-Adha in 2020, so please make use of that if you can. Thank you, Kosser. Thank you so much for joining us, and all du'as to you for putting this together. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you all the ajr that is due for such a beautiful piece of work. And inshallah, I hope that we will be able to continue this journey with more Tales of Mini Maryam in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Safaka. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.